So hi guys, the whole video is going to be on a hyperlapse. It's impossible to make a video which is going to be less than 30 minutes building a whole fence for the property. Here you can see me putting up batter boards around the perimeter of my property. Um, I literally just cut some 1 by pine boards that I got from the big box stores, and then just dug in the ground, which creates a perimeter or the fence line around the property. So here I'm just going to run um, a construction rail or a line from the house um, to one side of the batter board, and then I'm just going to continue across from the previous tied up reel to the end of the property. Now here you see me connecting uh, the reel from the one side of the house to the back of the property. So all that I'm trying to do is making a mark um, where I'm going to build the fence, because technically or legally you're supposed to build it 6 inches at least off your property line. And batter boards also give you a sense of if your fence is going to be square or not. You don't want to, like, make a zigzag line of a fence which is going to look awkward. So you want to make sure you square it up before you start building it. So I'm done. I'm done reeling the line from the back, and now I'm trying to do the same on the other side and connect to the other side of the house. Okay, the next thing is going to be measuring for the post, of course. Measuring for the post, meaning when you put up the post, you want to know if it's going to be 6 feet center on center or 8 feet apart. Most people do 8 feet to save the amount of lumber they use, um, but we did 6 feet. 6 feet uh, on center gives you the extra stability for the fence boards, because most people use either pine boards or any 1 by materials. Like, we went with appearance grade pressure treated 1 by 6s. Uh, it just wasn't pressure treated as also appearance grade, which means it looked nicer over dealing with severe weather. So here you would see me just putting up more stakes on every 6 feet. When I say 6 feet apart, just make sure you go at 5 feet 11 or 5 feet 10, because dimensional lumbers uh, they come kind of with issues in the ends because they have some cuts and veins that you don't want to deal with. Plus, if you mess up, you always want to, like, just cut it off or miter it off at the ends, so that you have that extra inch or two leeway that you could work with. Otherwise, you're going to have a big problem, like we did. So we had to move things around a bit. You always learn from mistakes, don't you? The next thing was renting an auger for digging the post holes. It was about 70 holes, and each of them is going to be about 2 to 3 feet deep. And digging it by hand was almost impossible. I mean, with an auger, it almost took a weekend for us to, or more, to finish just the digging part, because this is the most hardest part of the whole project. Trust me. Um, so we found this towable auger, which is pretty cool. I think it's 12 horsepower. It does a little better than the two-person auger. Um, um, it just sits on one side, you lift on the other side, and then you push down when you want to dig in. It comes with you can any size between 8-inch bit up to a 16-inch bit can go on it. So we rented a 10-inch and a 12-inch depending on the holes and the location where you want to dig. But most of the holes were 10-inch wide, and our posts were 4x4s. So um, people say 8 would have been good, but we went with an extra 2 inches, but just to be on the safer side. But as I said, it definitely is a good upper body workout, and you'll probably jump on it several times, because some holes are going to be harder than the other ones depending on the soil. Ours was red clay, was extremely hard one side of the house, but it worked out. The next one, of course, after we dig up the holes, we started to put the posts inside, starting from one side of the property. So we actually used quick setting concrete, just an easier way. You just pour the
bag of cement inside and fill it with water. Just the most easiest process. I would not recommend anyone, or at least the first time DIYers, to rent a concrete mixer, put the concrete in, and mix it with water, and then pour that mix into the fence post. It's going to take you longer or more hotter than what you expect or you think. Um, as you may have noticed, we did that intentionally, like dropping the post next to the holes. So just to make quicken the process, so we laid down all the posts literally next to the holes where it's going to be stood up, and then we left some cement bags next to it with some water hose also. Um, this is just to quicken the process of setting the post. Rather than breaking after every single post, this will actually save a lot of time. You might also have noticed that we put up some additional support for the post. This is only for the first 20-30 minutes. The bag says it takes 20 minutes for the post to set in, so we let the extra stability for an hour or two. Some posts actually went on overnight. After we were done with one side of the property, we actually started putting up the boards, fence boards on it. Um, Partly because my fiance was busy and I work at different hours than hers. So, well, at least for the post, you definitely need two people because one has to like hold it plumb and the other person has to fill up the cement. So rather than waiting on her, I thought I would just go ahead and put up the fence boards on one side, and every time and she'd come back home and we went back and finished up the post that we missed. Here you would see we came back, we started doing the post, setting up the post in the back of the property. Uh, Building it around the trees are extremely hard, so we couldn't follow that 6 feet on center anymore. Wherever there were trees, we had to move it around like probably like 5.5, or even sometimes even 8 feet. Also, I did forget to tell you that when we put up the cement, you always go 2 inches under the actual ground so that you can go back and backfill with dirt. In this way, the cement actually always stays below the ground level because when it rains, you don't want the cement to be exposed. Yeah, we next day we came back. You know, started from where we paused on putting up the boards. Putting up the fence boards is the easiest process of the whole project because it's literally just board on board on board. We went with like 3/4 of an inch gap. We just thought the horizontal fence would look way nicer with a little gap, and for the dogs we wanted some kind of semi-private fence so that they can see through. And with the boards, I actually kind of made like a little jig that's 3/4 of an inch. So we use that in every as like a spacer on either sides. And that way, all you have to do is just set the baseboard, and after that, use that little spacer and go on top of each other, like one over another, which is quicken the process. I will show the spacer and all those things at the very end of the video, and we also used 3-inch deck screws. And those are rated for pressure treated lumber. Um, and if you notice, we did not use a single nail in the whole project. Everything was screws. Using nails would have been so easier, but on the long run, nails are going to just pop out, and it's not going to look as nice as screws does, and screws last a lifetime than nails. Um, Again, as I said, it just board on board. It might think this all happened in a day, but putting up the boards, I would say took about a week. Here I'm installing the gate in the back first. We actually went with something called an AC gate kit. It's literally just a cheat way of making gates. It's like 4 brackets with some hinges that attaches to the post, and then I also ripped some boards. um, I think it was 3-inch boards, and then it's the same process like putting up the fence. The next day, we actually came back, closing the other side of the property, which we actually haven't put up the posts in. So here we took extra precaution because we have a about a 9-foot gate for the truck to actually go into the backyard if I'm bringing some lumber or dropping some mulch or anything. So we took extra care in measuring the distances between the posts where the gate's going to go. Um, Here also you can see a closer look on how we're filling up the concrete and setting the posts in. Um, Also, one thing to remember is like when you're going closer to the house, make sure you have some 3 or 4 inches away from the house when you're setting the posts in. You don't want to mess up with the concrete off your cross face. I also mitered the ends of all the 4 corners. We just thought it'd look nicer, when we walk around the fence. But you don't have to do it if you don't know how to do it. But mitering just makes it look cooler and nicer. Here, let me show you a closer look on how we built the fence on the other side. Setting up the baseboard is the critical part of it, because if you make that level, everything that follows on top of it is going to be level. So with the base, we actually clamped it up, check level, and then with the spacers, as I mentioned earlier, we spaced it out with 3/4 of an inch with that spacer jig that I used. You can see me use that here too. It's like a little 2 wooden boards that I cut, and then when I keep going up, I just space it between the boards and keep going up all the way until I'm done. And wherever there were spaces in the fence that we couldn't use a 6-inch board, we came back to our table saw and ripped some 2 or 3 inch boards to fill up that space. I'll show you in the next minute or two that you can probably see what I did with it. But yeah, we're literally just ripping some 6-inch boards into the required width, so like the ones that we want on the top. I think um, that's going to be 2-inch boards, and the one on the bottom it's going to be 2 1/4. This is just to like fill up the space that we couldn't use for with a 6-inch full board. Also for the gates, I think we ended up going with 2 1/4 inch boards. So I ripped some 10 to 15 boards for each of the gates. Again, for this gate also, we ended up using the easy gate system. I think it was 4 feet wide. I built it with 2x4s. I can put up a separate video of how to build the easy gate. It just probably takes about 20-25 minutes on tops. On top of that, you just do the same thing as you built the fence. Just board on board again with whatever spacer you want. Here, I think I went with a 1/4 inch gap. I don't want this. I didn't want the same 3/4 inch gap, just like the fence, because I just wanted the gate to look different than the fence. Um, but it is the same process as this. Here you see me do the last gate. When this is the double gate that I mentioned, that was going to be 9 feet for the truck. This is a little different because this one doesn't sit in a post in the center, but everything else is the same process as building the other gates, same easy gate system, again board on board. So I'm not going to bore you guys with showing that here. And the last process is, just cut up the longer posts and to length. I used a sawzall or a reciprocating saw. You can also use a circular saw going either sides. You don't want the top to be exposed, so we ended up putting up some post caps and some lights on top. So they sell these as on Amazon or wherever. I put some links onto it in the description on the video. But it's a pretty straightforward process. You don't want water to seep in because no matter what, it was pressure treated, but once you cut the lumber, it's not pressure treated anymore. So adding a post cap or post light is just the easiest way to go around cutting the post. I'll show you some before and after the pictures. This was before, of course, when we bought the house. I didn't have a fence or anything. This was during the whole process, and it does look beautiful. We are first-time DIYers, and you can totally see this was right after it was done. Ended up more beautiful than we thought, and this is the evening sun, the shadows casted. The lights came out very beautiful. We wanted to try it, and we were so happy that we tried. Um, and just watching the dogs being happy in the yard, it feels like we did something for them, and it worked out pretty well. That's the 4 of us, and thank you so much for watching. We'll keep making videos to make your life better. Thank you.